days with you, love for the night, even when you're mourn. Don't let me be cold-hearted attraction. She's got a hold on me. Yeah, she's got a hold on me. Back when I was free. She's got a hold on. Growing older, we're drifting away. Drag me closer and pull me in just like a magnet.
All right, on March 11, 2020, the NBA decided to officially suspend their season, and soon after that, at least in North America, other leagues followed. And before we knew it, every sports fan's worst nightmare had arrived. You're listening to the Full Timeout. I'm Kristian Cuaresma, and this is our open bar, open house segment where I take a break from interviewing players, coaches, and members of the media. Instead, have a drink with some of my friends while we talk sports. I'm joined by Andrew King, Michael Maloney, and Brian Reed. First question, fellas. When all this shit went down, which one of you took advantage of the free premium membership to Pornhub?
Oh, yeah, yes, 100%. No, that's me, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like if you look at all four of us, it's easy to choose who made that decision. That guy hasn't left his house in 3 months easily.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all.
Yeah, it was like amazing marketing on their end, because as soon as sports had been canceled and everybody was being quarantined and people were working from home, whoever was in that meeting room and they were trying to brainstorm and just throwing different ideas at the wall, the person who was like, let's just throw up free memberships, they got to pay a raise.
They got me with it. I mean,
I actually think I looked into it a little bit, but I feel like it wasn't exactly free as far as I saw anyway. I feel like they were still backdoor getting you, pardon my pun.
Yeah, I mean, nothing worth it in life is free, really. And so
it was worth it.
I won't lie. I've definitely seen the banners. I'll admit to that. That's for sure.
Oh, they had cracked the algorithm, because for me, like it was like all over the place, and then on Twitter it was trending for like almost a month, and so it was a weird time, but despite sports going away, and obviously that was a rough time for us. I know some of us were watching sports from last year, 2 years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and pretending to get excited off that. Like, how weird of a feeling was that for each and every one of you?
It was not fun.
I think the number one thing that we got that was great was the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary. I think they were saving that for a perfect moment. At least COVID seemed to be that perfect moment. It made a lot more of our sports fans a lot easier to get along with not having it, I think.
Agreed. And Sportsnet and TSN replaying the whole Raptors playoff run was pretty clutch too. That was pretty good. But yeah, I was big into the Michael Jordan Netflix special. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, The Last Dance was really good. But I've been lucky being a huge WWE fan. That's been running the entire time, so I'm still getting my fix every once in a while.
Has it been weird without fans?
Oh, it's been so weird. It's been terrible. Yeah. You don't realize how big of an impact the audience makes until it's gone.
Well, even Premier League Soccer just started, and I watched a game on Wednesday, and they're piping in crowd noise, and there's nobody watching, no one getting fired up. It was just bizarre. Like it's going to take a lot to get used to no crowds.
It's weird. It's off-putting even. Like it's
super off-putting. I completely agree. Like I wouldn't call myself like a soccer and or I guess football expert in that regard, but like, man, it's harder to watch it because you don't really know the nuances of the game enough. You don't know when to get excited, and then because the crowd friggin' tells you when you're excited,
It's like learning how to walk again, and I'm glad you guys mentioned the Last Dance. I still have flashbacks of trying to pitch it to my girlfriend as a really cool documentary, one that would win like Indie Awards, and so we have to watch it for the story and the plot line. But with the NBA finally coming back, or at least maybe coming back, they're aiming for a late July start. You've heard the buzzwords like the Orlando bubble. And so the plan is to have the teams that have been invited to come back to Florida or to come to Florida and play out the rest of the season and their very weird mutated Frankenstein format of playoffs. But right now, I think the big topic of discussion is, players being unsure. And so I guess we'll start here with you, Mike. Let's say you were on one of these teams, like, can you really fault one of your teammates for being unsure of coming in to Orlando to play out the rest of the season?
No, absolutely. I agree with them 100%. I also agree with the fact that I think Florida is one of the worst hit areas to even in the United States. So to even have it in Florida alone, I can understand their issues with it. I think the bubble idea is great. I think it should work. If they do it properly, I think it could work. I don't think money or funding is lacking for them to do the testing they need to do daily or twice daily to keep them all safe and keep them all from spreading anything. I just think it comes down to logistics of actually running a proper plan that they have in place. And no, I can't fault anybody for not wanting to be there for the sake of themselves or the family's health.
Yeah, Brian or Andrew?
I agree. It's such a weird thing, right? Like, it's never happened before, obviously, and we're starting to see kind of guys trickle out of kind of wherever they've been, and there are some of them that they have free agency coming up, and they're like, I haven't played professional basketball in 3 months. I don't want to risk an injury and that kind of thing. And then you have guys that are like, I don't want to be away from my family for 2-3 months potentially. And, all that stuff is, I know that the families are invited to Orlando and things like that. And that's kind of something that they've addressed, but you can't really fault them, especially when their futures are on the line. Like, what's his name? Bertens from the Wizards just came out and said he's not going to go. And then you have guys like Fred VanVleet and, 3 out of 5 Raptors starters are free agents that could, if they really choose not to defend the title, you could justify it, like Fred VanVleet might be in line to make $20 million a year. You think he wants to blow a knee or tear an Achilles or something in friggin' July and August,
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Like, Andrew, if you're in Fred VanVleet's position there and you've won a championship now, right? So you take that out of the equation and you're up for a big money deal. 2 kids just coming into your life. Are you going back to play ball?
It's a tough one because you have to admit that you have a love for the game. You want to play, you want to be with your teammates, but at the same time, you're right, there's that risk, and it's a very justifiable risk. It's a tough one to call. I'm happy I don't have to make that call, but
I'm asking you to make the call, though. I want to know, Andrew.
If it was legitimately me, I probably wouldn't go.
Okay.
But they're not shoving me, $20 million potential in my face yet.
Okay, I'm shoving $20 million guaranteed, because this isn't the NFL. Guaranteed money, you're coming, right?
I'll do a lot worse things for less money, so I probably will.
Okay, so the NBA traveled into the future, came back to 2020, and brought with them these medical rings that they want their players to wear. And apparently, and I still have to do more research, I admit, but these rings, when you wear them, they'll go off if you are at risk to get COVID. Like what are your thoughts on that? Like how wild is that? Where did this come from?
It's crazy. I mean, that's technology in 2020. How everyone thinks we're gonna have flying cars, but we have rings that can detect a pandemic sickness. So, I mean, using it in the right way, but that's a crazy thing to think about. Because I think I saw it has a 90% efficiency to be able to detect that, and
what?
That's and we're talking about a ring on a finger. That's just crazy.
Within 3 days of symptoms appearing, it takes 3 days. Like, it tells you, and then 3 days later the symptoms show up. That's how good it is.
So Mike, are you pissed off that these rings aren't available to the general public, or better question, why are we just now hearing about this because of the NBA possibly coming back?
Well, first of all, I'd assume that they've been doing testing on them for quite some time for them to have it advance to the point where these things are this accurate, and they're before you even get symptoms, they're telling you if you have it. So I'd assume we haven't heard much about it because they've been in the building stages of it. But like I said earlier, the NBA, I'm sure, is not light on their pockets. I'm sure these rings aren't cheap. And the general public, I'm sure they couldn't afford them anyway. Most people anyway in the United States with their privatized healthcare, I don't think half that population should be able to afford these rings anyway. I think they're a luxury. So I could see them working. I could see the NBA shelling out hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure they work so their players are safe. I'm sure they got insurance policies in place anyway if it's not with the people that are building them. So yeah, I mean, if they're saying they worked, then might as well use them, might as well try them out, right? And then this will at least give us something to go forward with in the future if this happens again, or we don't really know what's going to happen going forward. We don't know if anything's going to be the same, but if this does happen again in the same way, at least I'll have something. So,
like what would happen if after hard-fought Game 7, you head into the press conference and you're speaking to the media and your ring goes off? Like, then what? Like, what are the journalists doing? Like, what are the players doing? Is there an immediate evacuation? Like, that's the kind of shit that I want to see.
Yeah,
I know. It's crazy. Like, it's this whole new level. Like, you can't really predict a playoff series, or even when it comes to the NFL, maybe later when we talk about that, you can't really predict what's going to happen in the season, because it's like what happens if LeBron gets friggin' COVID and is quarantined for 14 days? Like, the Lakers are toast,
Yeah.
Like, is he out for, like, they don't just press the pause button because the friggin' second best player of all time, coming back to The Last Dance, is on the bench, or in a friggin' plastic bubble somewhere and not allowed to talk or touch anybody.
I'm sure if it's LeBron, they'll keep it under wraps for him to play.
Yeah.
But if it's like anybody else, absolutely in a bubble.
Moving on to... Yeah, you mentioned the NFL. Moving on to the NFL. They have a little bit of time. They have that luxury. But they're actually the one sport that I might be most concerned about, if only for the fact that out of the sports and the leagues that we've talked about so far, they're the one sport that literally requires contact on every single second of every single play. Like in the NBA and NHL, you have players that coast on the ice. In the NBA, players that are away from the ball, not necessarily kind of touching anybody. MLB, they are miles apart from each other at all times. But in the NFL, there's always someone touching each other. There's literally, a play does not stop until somebody hits someone. And so, Andrew, does this league even survive?
Survive a full 17-week season with no interruptions?
Correct.
I don't think so. I think there will be some sort of hiccup along the way, one way or another, whether it's right at the start or towards the middle of the season. But I don't think they last the entire duration of the season, clean slate.
Do you need to kind of continue along like business as usual? I know that they delayed the opening of camps and they got rid of all like most of their summer activities and stuff, and that's all good, but like it's almost like they're being like weirdly cocky about it all. Like they're like, yeah, we're for sure gonna have a 17-week season and everyone's gonna be fine, and at the very least the very most we'll cut out 2 preseason games, which they all want anyway. So I mean, it's just weird. Like it feels like they're like trying to be confident and like pretending like you can trust them to like do it the right way, but it's like like there's no precedence for any of this, right? So I mean, the biggest thing is like these NFL teams have 53-man rosters, and they have coaching staffs with like 16 guys on them, and there's so many people that are equipment managers and stuff. Like all these people, the teams travel with like 3 coach buses when they go anywhere. Like there's way more people involved in each team than there is for any of the other leagues, so it's like there's so much that could go wrong, and also like the discrepancy between like a guy that makes $10 to $15 million, you know, maybe he's a little more focused on the game and won't go out and party with his buddies. But like guys 48 through 53 on the roster, like what are they going to do outside of work, and what are they going to bring to the other 50 guys on the roster? You know, like you can't just tell these guys they can't do anything. You know, it's,
Well, you can try to.
you can try to, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not in a bubble like the NBA will be, and potentially the hub cities in the NHL. Like the NFL is planning on going through, and everyone's going to play in their own home stadium and go and visit.
They are being cocky about it, I think. Now that
Yeah.
Definitely.
They didn't even consider changing the way they do the schedule. You know, like teams are flying all over the country, and they could have easily like made it 1 year where they just regionalized everything similar to what the other leagues are trying to do, and they're just like, it'll be done by September, when everyone else is like, hey, in October, November, we're going to be friggin' on lockdown again, because guess what? This is the same timeline that's it's been in China or wherever. But I don't know.
Mike, when you were cutting out, we'll run it back with what you were saying, because we really couldn't hear you.
Sorry about that, guys. What I was saying was the fact that the NFL, or with the 14-day quarantine, if you get COVID, in other sports, I mean, you could play a lot of games in 14 days, but you could play a lot of games outside of those 14 days. The NFL, you're only playing 16 games. So if you potentially have an Ezekiel Elliott or a Dak Prescott, just for the Cowboys' sake, because I heard that Zeke had COVID. But if you have like a guy of that caliber out for 2 games, right, it really makes a huge difference in your team. I mean, like, what do you do? Play 2 games without your quarterback that you're paying $40 million a year to play? Like,
It's wild.
yeah, I mean, that's why I could see it. I could see them running into more issues than they're leading on that they're going to run into. But how do you suit guys like you guys that we're talking about, the bubble cities? If you don't have bubble cities and you got multiple people getting sick, what do? Do you field a practice squad that you can pull off at any time for COVID reasons and put back? Like
replacements team?
Yeah, replacement team, exactly. Like, do you feel like a 30-man replacement squad just for if anybody gets COVID? Like, I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah, and they haven't even talked about that either. It's like every team right now has like a roster full of like 80 dudes that they cut down or whatever by September when the games start. It's like, why don't you tell them right now that they can have 20 guys on a practice squad instead of 10 or whatever? Like, these should be things that teams are preparing for right now, just in case, you know, like backup quarter. Some teams carry 3 quarterbacks on their roster, but most teams only carry 2. Like, don't you think they'd want to nail down that 3rd and 4th guy right now and like have the league say that you can't poach these guys off of your practice squad, because that's another thing that could happen, you know? Like this guy goes down and then somebody takes who you thought was your number 6 cornerback off your practice squad. Like,
depth is going to be a big thing. Like, depth was always a really big thing, regardless of the sport that you're in. But COVID area depth, that's a serious thing to kind of consider as a manager. Like, Andrew, you're a Chiefs fan, defending champs.
Yes. Patty Mahomes gets COVID next year.
Don't put that evil on me. Don't put that evil on me. Why would you even say that?
Like, what happens? Like, do you even take the season seriously? And then if you don't, like, why should any other fan take it seriously?
Well, if Patrick Mahomes gets COVID, I'm expecting the call from Andy Reid immediately. If Patty Mahomes, question. No, seriously. Okay. So if we go back to when he was injured in the season,
bring back Cap. Kaepernick can do all those things, probably.
Probably, yeah. I mean, he was an athletic quarterback, and Andy Reid's a very smart man when it comes to offense, so possible. But they didn't do too bad with their backups throughout the year when Mahomes was injured. They did lose more than they won, but the offense wasn't terrible. So, but you're right. What's stopping a team from, let's say, the Bucs lose Brady week 2 to COVID, and they go, "Oh, Chiefs, we want your backup to be our starter," just as an example. And all of a sudden now, Chiefs are really reeling. It's no, next week Mahomes gets it.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. It's like there's already very little trading in the NFL, so it's like you're damn sure won't be trading guys for draft picks just in case. Like you don't want to get rid of your depth. I don't know. I think they need to expand the rosters at the very least. Like, you should be able to keep 65 guys under contract or something.
But,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I think they're doing that with the NBA. They're going to be expanding the limit and the maximum amount of players you can keep on the roster, just for any potential surprises.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Brian said, like, no one's going to want to trade any insert number round pick here for a quarterback for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like, no one's going to want to trade a fourth or a fifth for a backup, or if that's the price, you know?
And then, like, not only that, but like teams face a disadvantage based off what city they're in. You know, like
Yep.
like Texas is getting hit hard right now. So Houston and Dallas, those guys have more of a chance at getting COVID-19, and like the Florida teams, like Florida.
That's a great point.
Those
Like
are
we
the
were
things
saying,
you have to
Florida's a
consider
complete
now.
write-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You
It's
talk
like
about
why they've talked about moving. I know I don't know who it was, but some talking head was like, why don't we move the NFL to like the Midwest, like friggin' North Dakota or South Dakota, or like those like 6 states that are just right there on the border of Canada, you know, like Montana, teams that have never sniffed an NFL team. Like there's no fans, you don't need fans, as long as they have college football stadiums, just playing a bubble there, you know, like, isn't that better than risking friggin' Ezekiel Elliott going to God knows what club and getting COVID-19 from whoever, if that's how he got it? Pure speculation. But
With that said, though, I think the reason why they can't just make bubble cities for the NFL is just the sheer amount of players and personnel those teams have is
Right.
a lot more than the bubbles. Like, even that's what I was going to say earlier. Like, NBA is less than hockey would be, and that's why I think hockey has the 2 cities now instead of just the 1 as well.
Right.
But with the amount of just, like we were saying, 53-man roster is what normal one is. So with COVID roster, maybe 80 guys. So you're talking 80 guys plus 40 coaches and personnel plus their families if you want to bring them for the bubble, right? It would be tough, I think.
Ownership.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would just be too tough to put that amount of people on maybe if they had 10 cities, but even then you might as well just play it out then if you're going to go that far.
I want to just go through maybe one bold prediction from each and every one of you regarding the NFL before we wrap up. And I guess I'll start you off, Mike, but I have to ask you, in case yours is Cincinnati Bengals based.
That it is.
Will Macaulay
are you a
Culkin?
Bengals fan?
Oh, yes, sir, I am.
Yeah.
Long
Oh, that's
time.
so funny.
I was just gonna say.
I'm a
was just
diehard
gonna-
Ravens fan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
So
totally forgot. Yeah.
there's the beef we need for
Yeah.
for episode 2.
I was
There's
just,
some immediate heat right now.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
not
he just-
immediate. Maybe like 2 to 3 years from now
Yeah,
when you guys
yeah.
catch up.
Oh, here you go. More division titles since the year 2000, though, this way. So,
Oh, that's good. This is good. This is why.
How many
I'm
playoff
here.
wins?
yeah, none of those.
And so, Mike, I have to ask you, will Macaulay Culkin from another dimension, Joe Burrow, is he going to be the hero that Bengals fans both deserve and the one they need as well?
Well, that was going to be part of my bold prediction, so I guess I'll change my bold prediction up a little bit. But yes, I absolutely think Joe Burrow's the real deal. The only thing that I'm scared of for the new Broadway Joe is our offensive line, because it's been one of the worst in the league for the past couple of years. But I mean, last year we picked up a couple guys that were supposed to. I mean, we picked up Jonah Williams in the draft. He was the best offensive lineman in the draft. He tore his pec. He was out for the whole year. So we were using him, but we already had a young, inexperienced line that wasn't very well, and we just got worse last year. So I'm hoping with some of the moves they've made this year, they haven't really bolstered the line much, but I mean, I'm hoping on a prayer here, because I'd hate to see Joe turn into Derek Carr and be fighting behind a line that doesn't exist.
So wait, so is your bold prediction Joe Burrow is going to win Rookie of the Year? Because
That wasn't going to be my bold prediction.
Okay,
'Cause
okay.
I don't think it's just going to be Joe that does it. I think our Bengals defense is going to be really, really good. I think a lot of people have slept on the free agents we picked up. I think our offense is going to be good as well, just because we have AJ Green coming back, who didn't play last year. We also have Joe Mixon, who started picking up at the end of last year. He was injured for most of the year. Well, not most, but he's injured for a part of the year. Again, with no O-line, we had Joe Mixon putting up, I think he led the league in the second half of the season in yards, all-purpose yards, except for Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, we'll see. My bold prediction actually was that the Bengals were going to make playoffs. I could see us.
Okay.
I could see us making the playoffs, and it is a bold prediction to go from 2-14 to playoffs. But I mean, last year we had a lot of games. I think it was 8 games they had, or 8 or 9 games we lost with less than 7 points, or less than 8, one score, less than 8 points. So I mean, to lose that many games by less, yeah. So like that's what I mean, and we had horrible quarterback play all year round. Like it was a bad year.
See, but that's good though. I like that. That is. I would classify that as a bold prediction, and that is the kind of heat that I want you to come with each and every single show. Let's move to Brian.
Okay, I have a couple. Is anyone doing anything Patriots related?
No.
Andrew,
No, okay.
Oh,
No,
this
this
is
is good.
Good.
You're good. You're good. Okay. So my bold prediction is that the Patriots will have less than 7 wins this year. Yeah.
That's bold.
I don't care how good that defense is. They're going to have less than 7 wins this year. The defense is getting old. Jarrett Stidham as their quarterback. What are we even doing here? I understand that they think he looks good, and I understand that he might end up being good. But in the garbage time he played last year, he was not that good. He was not that good at Auburn. I think that's where he went to school, Auburn or Georgia, one of the two. Wasn't that good. Didn't even start until like his senior year. I don't fully understand why they're putting all their eggs in the Jarrett Stidham basket when Cam Newton's right there waiting for a job. So my bold prediction is that they'll have less than 7 wins. I think they will sign Cam Newton, surprisingly, like week 3 or 4.
Oh, that's a classic.
I think Stidham goes 3-6, and then Cam Newton steals his job. That's my prediction. Stidham loses against the Ravens in primetime football in week 10 or 9 or whenever they play, and then not only does he get destroyed, but they also just decide that he sucks.
You know what's funny? It's funny because I can definitely see that coming, but it's bold because no one would be surprised if Bill Belichick just made the playoffs and just ran the table with a bunch of randoms.
I know, but that's what's kind of bugging me about all the press and the pump they're getting right now is just because you have Bill Belichick as your coach, that means you're fine. Like they didn't even draft a quarterback. Who's their backup quarterback?
You get like a +10 to all your ratings if Bill Belichick is your coach.
I understand you do have the best coach in football. Your defense was, I mean, they were good last year, but when they played teams that were also good, they were not that good last year, Yeah. So it's like, and not only that, but they're getting old. Their defense is pretty old. Like the McCourty brothers, they're pretty old. They lost a couple guys on the defensive line and linebackers, like in their front 7. I don't know. There's got to be like something that happens to them. They've just been so good for 20 years that it's like, okay, this is the year where they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get a top 10 pick, and then they're going to somehow draft the kid out of North Dakota State. I forget his name, the really athletic guy. I can't believe I forget his name. But
maybe they take Trevor Lawrence, and then we have to put up with the Patriots again for the next
Imagine
15 years.
That's the worst thing that happens is they end up drafting in the top 8 and they trade up to the 1 spot and get Trevor Lawrence or something. Oh my God.
Now that point is kind of falling on me, I hope you are wrong, and I hope they are just mediocre this year and get like 9 wins, 8 wins, stay in the middle. Andrew, what's your bold prediction?
Well, I was going to say that the Chiefs go back-to-back, but I don't think that's pretty bold at all.
Trey Lance, North Dakota State quarterback. Watch out. They play college football this year. He's the guy. 42 touchdown passes last year, 0 interceptions.
Okay,
that's pretty good.
That's some like Brian Reed numbers right there.
Yeah, except the opposite. 0 42.
No, my bold prediction, and maybe it's not that bold, but the Cardinals, I think, will sneak into a wild card spot this year. The reason why I'm saying that, even though they're in the division of death right now with the 49ers and the Seahawks, Rams aren't that bad, but they're not that good either compared to the other two teams. Kristian, I don't know if you know this new receiver that got DeAndre Hopkins, I think.
Yeah, Nuke Hopkins. My God.
Yeah, he's
Fuck
pretty good,
that.
right?
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, but they lost a really good running back in that trade too, though. Is that going to affect them?
No, because they got Kenyon Drake still.
Yeah, they got Drake. They got that Drake character.
If Kenyon Drake is as good all season as he was in the last little bit of last season, I think they'll be okay. And especially with DeAndre Hopkins. Now, the rest of their team, besides their offense, is that. But these are unprecedented times right now. So let's just see the Cardinals go loose. Let's just see them go, get a nice wild card spot. Let's see a Cinderella story.
Super Bowl predictions to wrap up the show. And if, again, because we don't know the rosters, we don't know how things are going to play out. Obviously, let's assume nobody gets COVID in this perfect world. Who do you see at this very moment in time making it for the AFC, NFC, and then eventually winning the championship? I guess we'll go the other way. We'll go Andrew first.
Well, the Chiefs are making it back to the promised land.
Disgusting.
The NFC, honestly, I could see Chiefs and Bucks.
Goodell would love that.
Yes, you would. I can see that happening legitimately, though. The Chiefs have a very good team. They're bringing back, I believe, it's something like 20 of the 22 starters that they have. So every major part of that offense is still there. Obviously, we don't have to talk about the Bucks too much with Brady and Gronk. With
Skinny Gronk.
Yeah, with their already pretty impressive receiver core. So that's what I would go with the Chiefs going back to back.
Absolutely disgusting.
24-0. 24-0. That's all I got to say.
Brian, what about you?
So I have the Chiefs losing to Baltimore in Baltimore for the AFC Championship game.
Lies.
Buddy, you know how much has to go right in a playoff run to win the Super Bowl? Literally everything went right for the Chiefs last year, and that's not going to happen back-to-back. Their defense isn't good enough to play ball against the what's going to turn into an elite, balanced Baltimore Ravens team coming up, Baltimore Ravens offense. So I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl, which hurts me to say because anytime I predict somebody's going to win, it's not true. And it's my team. But I had to go with my gut. NFC Championship, I think it's actually going to be, I think Tampa Bay is going to get a wild card spot. I think New Orleans is going to get the 2 spot, and I think they're going to meet in the final of the NFC. And I think Brady is going to beat Breeze. And then I think Brady loses another Super Bowl, and it's going to be the best.
So I have a Chiefs fan saying the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I have a Ravens fan predicting that the Ravens are going to beat the Bucks in the Super Bowl. Mike, if you come at me with the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl, I'm going to remove you from the show.
No, I wish I could come up with that for my bold opinion, but even that's too bold for my take. I can't see that happening. But I actually agree with Brian. I think Baltimore beats the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Yeah, I mean, I had Patrick Mahomes last year in fantasy, and I love him, and I love the Chiefs. I have nothing against them. I think they did great. They played great Super Bowl. They played, and you know what, Reed was right. A lot of these got to go right in the playoffs for you to win. I mean, look at the Titans. The Titans forced out Baltimore, and I didn't see that coming. But I think Baltimore fixes their problems. I think Lamar Jackson has that year of superstardom under his belt. I think he's only going to get better, a la Patrick Mahomes, just like after his MVP year. I think Baltimore makes it, and I don't know if Baltimore wins. I think it's going to be really close, but I think Baltimore's there, and I think they're playing Tampa Bay. I think Brady takes that Tampa Bay team and marches it right through the NFC playoffs like nobody's ever done, and I think it's going to be a wake-up call for that NFC playoffs is they got to deal with now this Thomas Brady that they've never had to deal with in the first few rounds. So he doesn't let you take games off. He comes in there and rips you apart. So, yeah, I think it'll be Tampa Bay and Baltimore. And I could see Brady winning against Baltimore and finishing his career with a Tampa Bay Buccaneer ring.
And that wraps up our show. I thought this would take 20 minutes, and that's how I pitched it to you guys. We're at the 48-minute mark,
So
so
I-
I apologize.
That sounds about right. That sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah, but with that said, I do thank you, each and every single one of you, and it was super fun. And yeah, thanks for being on. And if you guys would be down, I'd love to kind of have you guys on again.
For sure.
Sounds good.
It's cool.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. On behalf of Andrew King, Brian Reed, and Mike Maloney, I'm Kristian Cuaresma, and that was the Full Timeout. And we just debuted our open bar, open house segment, and we'll catch you guys again next time.